They say women are the gentler sex, the weaker sex. But what if I told you that some of the most dangerous criminals in America's prison system aren't men at all? Imagine a woman so manipulative she convinced a prison officer to drive her out of maximum security, or another who killed without hesitation, earning comparisons to Charles Manson. Today, we're stepping inside the walls of America's most dangerous female prisons to uncover the stories of the women who shattered every expectation of what it means to be the gentler sex. At first glance, Sarah Pender doesn't look like a murderer. She's soft-spoken, highly intelligent, and doesn't fit the stereotype of a violent criminal. But that's exactly what makes her so dangerous. She's not a killer with brute force, she's a manipulator. Her crime, a double murder without pulling the trigger. In 2000s, Pender's boyfriend, Richard Hull, shot and killed their 2 roommates in cold blood. But even though he pulled the trigger, prosecutors believed Sarah was the true mastermind. She bought the murder weapon, a shotgun used in the killings. She helped dispose of the bodies, tossing them into a dumpster. She was accused of manipulating Hull into committing murder, just like Charles Manson manipulated his followers. The jury believed the prosecution's theory, sentencing Pender to 110 years in prison. But Sarah Pender was never going to stay locked up forever. In 2008, Sarah Pender did what few prisoners ever accomplish. She escaped from a maximum security prison. But she didn't do it with force. She did it with manipulation.
Well, I escaped from what was supposed to be a maximum security prison.
How did you do that?
An officer aided me. He drove me out. They have these transportation vans that come in to get fuel. They have like their own little gas station, and we planned it so that when he came in to get fuel, then I came out and got in the van.
She seduced a prison guard, Scott Spittler. She convinced him to smuggle her into a prison transport van. Without raising any alarms, Spittler drove her straight out of Rockville Correctional Facility. For 136 days, she was America's most wanted woman, hiding in plain sight, living freely while the authorities scrambled to track her down. When she was finally caught, the prison system made an example out of her. 5 years in solitary confinement, the longest of any woman in Indiana. No phone calls, no visits, no contact with the outside world. A living nightmare in a 6 times 9 foot cell. But prison officials still fear her. One officer put it bluntly, "If you can convince a trained officer to drive you out of a maximum security prison, you can convince anyone to do anything." While Sarah Pender used manipulation to commit her crimes, others inside these prisons were killed with their own hands. Some of the most feared inmates are not just murderers. They are women who took the lives of their own children. Addie Hartz grew up surrounded by crime and violence. By the time she was 13 years old, she had already started robbing people on the streets. She and her friends would drive around, jump out of the car, attack pedestrians, and steal their belongings. One night, she and her crew assaulted 3 victims, making off with just $300. Her sentence? 16 years in prison. Even she admits it was nothing. A stupid decision. Not worth all these years of my life. But Addie's story is part of a larger cycle, one that keeps women like her trapped in a life of crime. Her mother served time for attempted murder and armed robbery. Her grandmother, another prison record. Now Addie herself is locked up, hoping to break the cycle before her own children follow in her footsteps.
I just do not want them to follow this same circle. Like, my mother was in prison. You know, this is the same.
What for?
Attempted murder and aggravated robbery.
Prison isn't just about bars and locked doors. Inside, power comes in many forms. Some inmates form tight-knit gangs for protection. Others manipulate officers to gain special privileges. Many form romantic relationships, even if they weren't interested in women before. As one inmate put it, "This is the gayest place on earth." A lot of women don't come in here gay, but they become gay. For some, these relationships are about love and survival. For others, it's just another way to gain control. These women prove one thing: Danger doesn't always come in the form of brute force. It can be hidden behind intelligence, persuasion, and a well-placed smile. Some kill without remorse. Some manipulate their way to freedom. Some will never feel guilt. One thing is clear: America's most dangerous women aren't just criminals. They are masters of deception, violence, and survival. And some of them, they wouldn't hesitate to do it all over again. For women like Sarah Pender, the outside world is nothing more than a distant memory. The price of her brilliant escape was a permanent spot in solitary confinement, a place where human interaction is nearly non-existent. No phone calls, no visits from family, no chance of parole. And yet, even locked away in a 6x9-foot cell, prison officials still fear her. Why? Because Sarah Pender doesn't need to use violence to be dangerous. Her weapon is her mind. And even in complete isolation, she is still the most powerful person in the room. She once convinced a trained officer to drive her out of prison. What's stopping her from finding a new way out? This is why women like Sarah remain under constant surveillance. Because while they may have lost their freedom, they have not lost their ability to control people. Then, there are those who will leave, but the world they return to is no longer the one they left behind. Take Martha Search, for example. She spent 20 years behind bars, watching the world change from a distance. The last time she was free, iPhones didn't exist.
I seen this little gadget once, and I didn't know what it was, and someone said it was an iPod, so I had to have them explain to me what an iPod was, because I don't know.
Social media was in its infancy. Her children were still teenagers. Now, her daughters are 35 and 32 years old. They have built lives without her. And when she walks out those gates, she will no longer be a prisoner, but she will also no longer be the mother they remember.
I haven't seen my youngest daughter since '99. She couldn't do it no more. And my oldest, I stopped coming in 2005 because she didn't want to leave without me anymore.
This is the hidden sentence no one talks about. Yes, some women will be released back into society. Yes, they will be given a second chance. But for many, freedom will be just another kind of prison. The most dangerous women in America don't always need a weapon. Sometimes, all they need is time. And in prison, they have plenty of it. What do you think about this? Comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more of these kinds of videos. Thanks for watching.